Another rock star on 24 Hours of Nothing But Net. I like to say I'm a colleague, but anytime I can put my name in the same sentence with Jay Bilas, I always feel like I'm a winner. Jay, thank you so much for joining us on 24 Hours of Nothing But Net.
Oh, Debbie, it's my pleasure, and I'm really proud of all that you're doing. And 24 hours is kind of hard to imagine, but congratulations on everything.
Well, thank you. The truth is, I had to build up some cachet and spend 3 years, perfecting my free throw form and working on this live stream before I'd ever bother you for any of your time and your support. But you've been such a good friend. You've always been such a great supporter of what I'm doing, and I always am grateful for anything that you do.
Well, I couldn't be prouder of you, and you were very kind to say what you said. But when we were in Asheville together, I told everybody what I think is you're the best in the business, and I couldn't be prouder to call you a friend and colleague.
Well, thank you for saying that, Jay. I wish our bosses were listening. Well, you say
They
that.
are.
I hope they're listening to you. I like to hire you for my agent right now. So, Jay, just a little bit about the season. I know it was a special and unique year. And I want to talk about Coach K with you for a minute, because when we were in Asheville, I was joking with you about whether I was going to need to make sure when I saw you, I had your toughness book or a box of Kleenex, because I know you have such a special relationship with Coach K, and it was such a unique situation for us in the game to have someone like him, and you had a special relationship with him. What was it like this year for you calling his final games?
And it was great overall. I think knowing that it was his last year made everything especially poignant. I wanted to be a little bit careful just in our jobs that you didn't go over the top early. This is the last time Coach K will put his socks on in Little John Coliseum, stuff like that, and make fans roll their eyes at it, and save it up for the end. But as you know better than I do, most of the time when a coach retires, it's like when Jay Wright just did. You have several days of talking about it, and you move forward. This gave us a year to kind of celebrate what he's meant. And for those of us that played for him, coached under him, it was very special. And for me, the most interesting part was what turned out to be his last game at the Final Four. I was doing the ESPN international broadcast, so my NIL deals in Latvia are killing it. But when you saw a great friend and former colleague in Hubert Davis win that kind of game and watch his players celebrate, so on one hand you're happy for Hubert, and then you turn your head and you're watching Coach K walk off the floor for the last time. And I've said this before; it was really poignant, but I wasn't sad. I was grateful, grateful for all he's done for me, and for all of us that played for him, but also grateful for having him in our lives and in the game, and for all this time. 40 some years. I think it's 42 years he was at Duke, and that that's been the case since I was 17 years old.
Right.
And I'm 58 now, and to have him where I played for that long, it's really really kind of extraordinary. And so I felt grateful more than anything, and it was a big part of what was a great season on a lot of different fronts. But that was front and center for a good part of the season.
Growing up on Tobacco Road and being a part of, a legacy of Coach K, and for me growing up on Tobacco Road, I mean, watching Dean Smith or Jim Valvano or Mike Krzyzewski and even my coach K Yao, having those relationships that you can carry for decades forward are so meaningful. I mean, you still have Coach K, and he still has played a role in your life, even assuming with you and Wendy and with your children and everything that you've done and what you've gone about building around your own brand and your own empire, Jay. When you think back to that 17-year-old kid that was making that decision, and I know you've talked about it a lot, but when you were 17 versus where you are now, did you have any idea that Coach K was going to be in your life that long?
No, no, that was beyond my comprehension. And I'm not sure whether you and I have talked about this, but I've talked about it before. When I was coming out of high school, I was very lucky. I played on a great high school team, and all my teammates, we were best friends since we were in fourth grade. Played together from fourth grade all the way through high school, and we had a great group. But the situation with our coach was not a good one.
Mhm.
And so when I was deciding on where I wanted to play in college, it was less about what school I went to and more about what coach I played for, because I didn't want to go through again what I went through in high school. And that was the only time I figured that I was going to get to choose who I played for in my basketball life. Every other turn, the coach is dictated to you. And so I wasn't going to make a mistake there. And Coach K, of the four coaches I ultimately came down to, was the least experienced, the least well known, and the least successful. But there was something about him that not only I really liked, but I really trusted, and never looked back once I made the decision. I think a lot of people questioned it at the time, like, who is this guy? And a lot of coaches that were recruiting me negatively recruited against Duke by saying he's not going to be there your whole 4 years. Like, he's not going to make it. And that was said more than a couple times. And guys tried to scare my mom into with that. But I never thought about it that way. I never questioned any of that. Did I think that he would go on to be the greatest coach of all time, arguably, or be there 40 years and retire an icon when I was 58? No, I was thinking more about those 4 years, rather than the investment paying off like it has. I mean, I feel like I got in on Microsoft on day one
Wow.
with committing to him. But it's been a profound influence on my life. I don't know where I'd be without him. I'm sure I'd be doing something good, um, but it wouldn't be the same. And I it's funny, Debbie. Like, I don't know what you think of with Coach Yao, but getting to know Bill Walton and spend so much time with Hubert Davis, like, I would never argue with Walton if he said that John Wooden was the greatest coach ever, and he wouldn't want to hear a discussion of it. And I would never argue with Hubert if he says Dean Smith is the greatest coach ever or something like that. And if all of us were in a room on Mother's Day and we all stood up and say, I've got the best mom in the world, none of us would argue. We'd all go, "Isn't that great
Mhm.
that he or she thinks that they've got the best mom when really I do."
Mhm.
But somehow this, when you talk about coaches, everybody no, that's not true, or this guy was the best, or this
Yeah.
person was the best. I don't know how it got that way, but this year gave us an opportunity to, I think, appreciate. Um, I hope the word is appreciate, but appreciate what Coach K has meant, and maybe it shined a light a little bit on Roy Williams, or with Jay Wright making his decision, for us to make sure that we're valuing the greatness we have in our game. Like, I've been fortunate at my age. I lived through Jack Nicklaus and Tiger Woods. I
Mhm.
lived through, when I was a kid, I watched Wilt Chamberlain and Jerry West play for the Lakers, and then I got to see Kareem and Magic and that crew, and then LeBron, and Michael Jordan. Played against Michael Jordan in college. Got to see all that up until now, and the same's true with coaches. So the game's going to be just fine without Coach K in it, on the sidelines. It'll move on, and we'll do extraordinarily well. It won't be the same. And so for that, I mean, there's part of me that is really going to miss it. But there's another part of me that's really excited about John Shire and Hubert Davis and where the game's headed, because it's actually in great hands. And that's why the Jay Wright news was a little bit of a gut punch, because I expected Jay Wright to be one of the top guys to take over and be the next Coach K, but he decided he'd had enough.
When I got the Jay Wright news, which was late that night, I saw it, and then in the morning, I felt like it was true. The first thing I did was text Tom Izzo. I wanted Tom to know how much I care about him, how great he is, how lucky we are to have him. And I'm like, please don't go. Because, like you, I agree. Hubert and John are going to transition the next era, and are obviously they're both capable. And Hubert already proved that he's capable. And somebody like Coach Izzo is just such a treasure to have someone like that in our game. And speaking of treasures, I mean, yeah, you mentioned people roll their eyes and they think, oh, Coach K's done this or that, or whatever the criticism could be out there, which I deflect probably equally as hard as you do, just because of my own relationship with Coach K. And that's the lens that I judge people, is through my relationship with them, not what someone else is saying. I just know what he has meant to so many families in the Durham community, and the outreach from his effect on Duke Children's Hospital or the Emily K Center, and even how he's directly impacted my family with his relationship with my son Frankie. And actually, that's sort of why we're here. I mean, that's why I asked you if you would be willing to help support us. But before we go there, I want to ask you, because something that you said really struck a chord with me, because I feel like we grew up in a similar era with the same references to sports figures that you were able to so eloquently state. I feel the same way about Jack and Tiger and etc. In the basketball world. But I want to ask you what your take is on the difference between all the awards that you think Coach Yao, or excuse me, Coach K, Coach Yao, synonymous. All the rewards that Coach K has helped you achieve versus all the awards that you may have received, and what the difference between the awards and the rewards are to you.
Well, the awards are first of all, there aren't that many, but they're everything you. Anytime you're recognized, it's meaningful. But those go on a shelf somewhere, and they're honestly of little value. The real value, I hadn't heard it put that way. I'm stealing that from you without attribution. Awards versus rewards, because the rewarding part about having played for Coach K, it was great at the time because of the competition and all the things we were doing. But I probably didn't understand or comprehend the value and the rewarding part of the relationships with my teammates, with the people on staff, whether it was the administrative staff or all the professors, all the support you had at a great university. And then to have Coach K, it was very intense at the time, the relationship, in a good way. It's changed over the years, and you've always had that support there where you can bounce ideas off of them. And one of the things, Debbie, and I'm sure this is true of your mentors, the best mentors that you have are not the ones who tell you what to do. They're the ones that prod you or prompt you to ask yourself the right questions so that you can come to the best decision for you. And that's one thing that Coach K has always been available for, is you can and could always ask him, what do you think? And he'll get you to reach the right conclusion on your own, really, by him getting you to ask yourself the right questions and boil it down. I think what has made him great, among the things that have made him great, and maybe at the top of my list, is his ability to take what seems complicated and make it simple. He can simplify things for his players and those in his charge, and that's a really valuable thing. And so that's been the real reward, is the relationship that we've all had with him. And I think it's really difficult. He makes it seem easy, but for each one of us that have played for him and or coached under him, whatever it is, we look at him as the hub of our basketball life. So all of us feel like this is an incredibly special relationship that we have individually with him. And then, but if you flip it around and you look at it from his perspective, he has to manage 300 of those relationships that the individual thinks that's the thing. And how could it be the same for him for all 300, whatever the number is? But he makes it that way, and still sends handwritten notes. I mean, if you can believe this, we still get birthday cards from him, handwritten birthday cards. And I asked him about it one time. I was like, "Are you kidding me? Like, how do you do that?" And he says, "I just want you to know I'm thinking about you," and that's pretty cool.
That reminds me of my coach Kay Yao. One day we were leaving the arena after she had passed after a play for K game, and her longtime secretary said, "You guys need to all come in the office and get your file." And we were like, "What do you mean get our file?" She had a filing cabinet with a folder on every single player that she had saved, everything from being the time we were in high school being recruited all the way through. And in my file had Christmas cards, notes that I had sent her, pictures of my boys, my transcripts from college, any just interesting stories, newspaper clippings, things that I didn't even know she was paying attention to that she would have saved because she would have seen it and said, "Hey, put that in Debbie's file." And when we none of us knew she had a file. It was so remarkable to go back and look at it and know how deeply she cared when you knew she did and you saw it and you felt it. But then you had a visual example of decades of time where she had that unique relationship. Now, she didn't have 300 because there weren't 300 of us, or about 170 of us that had played for her. But still, it's the same impact that you're talking about. It's just remarkable. Um, Jay, just the last game in Cameron, because had the great fortune of calling the game on the ACC network. You were doing it with Dan. I was doing it with Wes and Mark, Wes Durham and Mark Packer. Just your perspective of that game, because it was one of, if not the most iconic moments in my career, and I've been doing it a long time as well. I just thought it was absolutely remarkable to be in the building on that night.
I agree. It was a lot to process, and I was honestly concerned about it. I wanted to make sure that I honored the game and did it down the middle, like we always try to do. But at the same time, there was an undeniable personal connection to the evening and to the entire event. And I was concerned. I was sort of against when Duke had decided to have all the former players in attendance down on the floor for Coach K to walk through. I thought I probably shouldn't do that because I got to be up in the booth. I got to do the game and be a professional, all that stuff. And some of our bosses at ESPN talked to me and said, "No, you need to be down there."
Absolutely.
And so I did it, and I was glad I did. I was the only schlep in a suit. Everybody else is wearing a T-shirt and all
You
that.
look good though.
Uh,
You look good in that crowd. I
yeah,
saw you down there.
but it was really moving. It was a really nice thing. I do, looking back, I'm sure that maybe some people were thinking, well, did that affect the play on the floor, all that stuff? But in the long run, there's a part of me that thinks, who cares? That was a moment that went beyond the game. But it was, we had so much coverage there, and how many sets did we have on that campus? I mean, it looked like a political convention with all the coverage. But leading up to it, there were some emotional moments talking about what he's meant and reflecting upon it because we hadn't really had an opportunity to do that. And that was really, there was far more of that in the last game in Cameron than there was at the Final Four even. And maybe
Agreed.
that was the perfect time for it. But again, going back to the feeling, because all this stuff leaves you with a feeling more than anything. I didn't feel sad. He's 75 years old, and he's never the one. Another thing that amazes me is he never lost his enthusiasm for the day to day grind of coaching. And you and I have both seen this, that as some coaches get older, you can see they've lost their enthusiasm for certain parts of it, and they may still keep going. But Jay Wright referred to it as an edge. He felt like he lost his edge. I don't know that that's true. Only he knows that. But in other coaches that have gotten older, you honestly kind of see it. With him, I didn't really see it, and but you knew intellectually, like, this can't last forever. It's going to come to an end at some point. But just for me personally, like, I got this question all the time for the last 15 years. People would ask, "Well, how much longer is he going to go?"
Mhm.
And it was crazy. I like just about every time I got asked that, from 15 years ago to now, or not now, but a year ago, before he made his announcement, I would say, 5 more years. and then the fifth year would come, and I'd go 5 more years, and then you go, well, this will never end
Yeah.
because he hasn't changed the way he's done. He still does things exactly the same way, puts the same amount of time in it, stays up at night watching tape, and all these things that he's always done. But now that it's quote unquote it's over, I feel really good about it because of the way it wasn't the it wasn't the normal way to retire. The normal way is the way Jay Wright did it or Roy Williams did it. That's the norm. But it was beautiful in a lot of ways, and I've never quarreled with anybody. Like fans can do what they want. Like there's some people that love him, some people that like him, some people that respect him, some people that don't like him because they wear a different shade of color on their uniform. I get all that, but at the end of it, you're going just like with Kay Yao for you, and the story about your file and all that, and all the files of the players. You tell people like, look, at the end of the day, we can talk about his record and all the championships and all that, but he's a hell of a good guy, and that's sort of the thing you want people to know is he's really a good guy. And I've always enjoyed the hell out of the off-season Coach K. He is a blast to hang around. He's funny, and now we get the off-season Coach K all the time. So that'll be really fun.
Well, you're absolutely right. He never lost his edge in the practices I was in. He was ready. His teams were ready, and it was really you could just absorb it all because you knew it was coming to an end, and you wanted to just hang on and absorb that one more thing or nugget or mannerism or body language or something that was going to indicate to you that this is going to be another great game, another great prep, and then he's just going to get ready to do all the things that you just said he would do to get ready, including staying up all night to watch film, which he continues to do. I bet he'll still keep doing some of that because that's going to be a hard habit for him to break. Jay, that edge is exactly what I need while I'm in the driveway here because this is running during 24 hours of nothing but net. And we have done some remarkable work for Special Olympics, and I know you're a big fan of Frankie's, and I know you're a fan of Special Olympics. If somebody was watching and knew if they could just give a penny for every free throw I make, it's $24 for Special Olympics. And you live in the state of North Carolina, which is one of the 6 states that we have added this year to 24 hours of nothing but net. So we're trying to turn this into a national like free throw shooting weekend, this marathon that we've created. What would you say to inspire some people? Because I know you understand the value of community and giving.
Well, not only I think most people are generous in spirit and giving, but what sets the Special Olympics apart, in my view, is the value of that community that you're talking about. That
Mhm.
we tend to focus our energies on the top level of competition,
Mhm.
and the value of competition on any level is precious. And for anyone to be able to compete and to strive, is invaluable, and it's so important. And so any way that you can support, especially young people, but anyone that is striving to compete, and the value, the personal value that comes from that, you can't put a price tag on it. And it can be a low dollar amount to you, but it's a high value amount to the people it's going to help. And so I'm glad you're not having me help out shoot free throws, because it would cost you money from not only all the misses, but having to repaint the rim afterwards. The cost of that would be astronomical. But kudos to you for all you're doing, and but especially to Frankie, because I know there's a lot that he's getting from this, but
Mhm.
what he's giving to inspire others is so much more valuable, and I couldn't be prouder.
Thank you so much, Jay. It means so much to me personally and to our platform that you would take time from your schedule. And we're going to continue. I'm just going to keep shooting till my arm falls off and keep trying to raise money for Special Olympics. I think that's what my chore and my challenge is.
Well, go get them. You're not going to miss much. I've seen you shoot, so this should. Free throw for you is a layup for anybody else.